Hello, I'm back as promised. I left a time on the last live that I did with Dr. Shiloh, who was very, very informative, and we talked slightly on mental health, and it was a really, really good conversation. But now I have my next guest coming on, who is also a doctor, my brother, Dr. Joe Johnson. He is going to talk on mental health. He's very experienced with mental health. He speaks on it all the time. So let's see if we can get Dr. Joe Johnson on the line. There you are. I see you. And is my brother, by the way. So he's highly educated when it comes to mental health. So we're going to just try to have a combo. Brother,
What's up?
what's going on, man?
Can you hear me, see me loud and clear?
Yep, we're back. USA Fibroid Centers. This is the Speak Up and Speak Out live with your girl Shay Johnson, and now we have my brother Dr. Joe Johnson. Today's topic, brother, because I know I had you on a live before, but I really wanted you on this one because I know you're really experienced when it comes to mental health, right? When I had my fibroids, I didn't even know that I was depressed. I didn't know I was having mental health issues, but apparently I was, and I discovered I was going through that kind of during the process. But tell me a little bit, I guess, educate me and educate the people watching on what your knowledge is when it comes to mental health and how it kind of pertains to fibroids, because it definitely affected me.
Yeah. So just to be clear, my background is counseling, right? And you hear a lot of people talking about mental health, wellness, and one of the things that we have to begin to understand is it looks different in everybody, right? However, mental health impacts us all. So let me paint the picture for you. And this is from the knowledge that I'm learning from some of the stories that I've learned from some of the women who've dealt with fibroids. And I want you to imagine um, sitting down and just feeling very uncomfortable. And then maybe every couple days or every other week, maybe an accident happens when you're on your cycle and you don't even realize it, right? And I want you to imagine what that can do to, number one, which has to do with your mental health and wellness, to your self-confidence,
Yep.
right? What it has to do. So now you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, what is wrong with me? Or why am I going through this? Right?
Yep.
And now you have this internal battle with yourself, and you're upset and you're trying to figure out how you're going to deal with it, and you're struggling, but this is happening over and over and over again, right? Now, that's one thing, your self-confidence. Number two, what I want you to think about is now what's happening to you inside when you have this anxiety of, oh my goodness, do people recognize what's going on? Or, oh my goodness, am I going to have an accident at any time? Oh my goodness. Now you have this anxiety. So now you're starting to move differently. When I say move differently, what that means is maybe you don't want to go out as much, right? Maybe your attitude changes. Maybe your energy changes, right?
Yeah.
And you're thinking, man, people might think I'm crazy, or people think something is wrong with me. And the reality is something in terms of your health is wrong. However, that does not make you a bad person or something is wrong with you, right? And the last piece, right? So we're talking about self-confidence. We're talking about anxiety that you may have. But now this last piece, which is also important, and you want to pay attention to this because, like my sister just said, she was in a deep depression, not even realizing she was in a deep depression, right?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so what people begin to do when they have these things going on, what happens is people might start to just stay at home, not come out,
That's what
right?
I did. Yeah.
Right? Become a hermit. And when I say hermit, like a hermit crab, that crab goes into the shell and they just don't come
That's
out, right?
what
What,
I
what,
did.
what else happens is some people may try to find ways to cope. They might start overeating. They might
Yep.
start over drinking. They might start maybe drugs, right? They might start finding something to take their mind off of what's going on. But these are some of the things that happen. You want to pay attention to that. When you start, you don't have any energy, or you're just doing things out of your normal, the normalities of what you do, right? It can be very frustrating. It can be very scary. It can make people run away from you the same way you're running away from them. So
Yeah.
you want to think about self-confidence, right? It has to do with mental health. You want to think about anxiety, that has to do with mental health. But then you also want to think about some of these ways in which people choose to cope that oftentimes are dangerous and negative.
So how, when you have fibroids, because a lot of women don't speak on it, and because they don't speak on it, they try to self-heal. And I mean self-heal mentally and physically. It's almost like you have to find ways to let women know it's okay to speak on your situation. This is why I do the lives. This is why I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about mental health. Because if mental health takes control of you, you will go into that box the same way I did. You will go into hiding, and you wouldn't want to talk about it. You're scared of the accidents the same way I was. But how do you prevent that?
You know, the interesting thing is, we're doing preventative work right now, right? And what that means is, number one, at least from my point of view, educating men, right? Because, for the individuals who their husbands or their boyfriends or who their partner is a male, we don't know. We don't know. So being informed and not thinking like, man, what's going on with my woman? And not right, but you need to know what's going on with your partner. Now, if people are same-sex loving, right? Maybe sometimes that if it's two women, maybe the other woman has no idea about fibroids, because then you can start to break this down like culturally and ethnically and racially. Like it impacts some of us differently. Some people have no clue what's going on. So educating folks on what it is, and not and making sure that this is a topic that's been going on, and men have to talk to men. People who don't know about it have to educate folks who don't know about it. So just
You
making
know
sure we
what's
get the word out.
what's funny in the African American world and our culture, it seems like it's common not to speak on anything that's related to your menstrual cycle.
Uh-huh.
And because fibroids are related to your menstrual cycle, I think that's what caused the domino effect of why we're silent, why we don't
Yeah.
speak on it. So then there's another issue you're causing, the mental health issues. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of issues I had that, like I said, I didn't know I had, but because I'm an ambassador for Fibroids, USA Fibroid Centers, and I've seen the different stories from the different women that's also ambassadors for USA Fibroid Centers, I started to recognize, like, wow, that means I was more depressed than I thought I was. Like, wow, I really needed help because I was going through mental health issues and I didn't even know about it. I just shut down. I said, like, nobody wants to be in public and have an accident of, your menstrual cycle, blood running down your legs or just falling on the floor in front of everybody. Because it happened to me. It happened to me with my friend's mother. I was in her car. She was taking me to the airport, and I felt it coming. It just gush came out. Her entire seat was full of blood. And I know it sounds like, when you talk about the different accidents and situations you go through when it comes to fibroids, it's not easy to hear, but it's not easy to hear because we don't talk about it. We don't consider it the norm. But in our culture, we need to change that perspective of keeping quiet when it comes to our menstrual cycle. Because that's, to me, a part of removing the mental health issues that come along with having fibroids. And I think it will discontinue women from shutting down and separating themselves, because I separated from friends, family. I stopped dating. I stopped answering the phone. I stopped working. I stopped going to work out. I stopped like pushing my business. It's like nothing mattered anymore because I didn't understand what was going on with my body. And I felt like I had minimum options: myomectomy, hysterectomy. Let me cut your uterus out, or let me cut your stomach to remove the fibroids and place your uterus back in. That's scary to even think about. But if I didn't do that, I'll continue to have these accidents, and I'll continue to separate myself from everybody and stay enclosed. So it's hard to deal with when you've been told forever, especially, like I said, in our culture, keep it quiet when it comes to your menstrual cycle. I'm not keeping quiet anymore. And I don't want other women to keep quiet. And I'm so proud of the women that are a part of USA Fibroid Centers, because if you've heard their stories, a few of their stories. A lot of the situations are worse than mine. You know what I mean? I had a really bad case of fibroids, but there's women that can never conceive. You know, there's women that's still dealing with issues from fibroids because they constantly come back. They can't get rid of them. There's women that's had over 7, 8, 9 surgeries. I had one, and I have issues right now from my one. So I think the mental health process, I think it's something that will continue. And I'm glad I did my live on this, because I think you and I should talk about this continuously. I don't think it should be one conversation. I think this is something that